Hi friends, this is Terry Squires with today's Nashville, This is Faith. I sat down with Jason Lovins, music artist, and he told me all about his life and a 15-year-old girl that got pregnant. You won't want to miss his episode. In every challenge you face, the Lord will be the lamp unto your feet, a light unto your path. Christian music artist Jason Lovins' life was already planned by God when an innocent 15-year-old girl was assaulted and became pregnant by a stranger as she walked home from a community swimming pool. And God has a plan for your life too. This is His story. This is today's Nashville. This is Faith. Jason, I am so excited that you're joining me today on today's Nashville. What a blessing and honor to sit down with you.
Honored to be here.
You know, I listened to and watched your video, Constant.
Mm-hmm.
It had me in tears. And we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Why? But you're celebrating your 20th year.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. The band started in college, and before I knew it, we were on the road every week, and then you blink and 20 years go by.
Let's go back to your childhood.
Yeah.
You grew up where?
Canova, West Virginia. It's right across the river from where I live now in Ashland, Kentucky. I tell people I married a Kentucky girl and couldn't get her across the river, so we live over there now.
Did you meet her in high school or
in college?
Okay.
Yeah, and we went to college at Morehead State University, just about an hour down the road. But we ended up just moving back home and in that same area, so that's home.
What was it like growing up?
Oh, I had the best childhood. I really did. I lived part of the time with my mom in the city and then part of the time with my grandparents out in the country. And so I really did kind of get the best of both worlds. And I look back on that now and just very thankful because I got to have a pretty cool experience growing up.
Are you the only child?
I am.
The only, okay.
My wife says I was very spoiled. I don't necessarily agree with that, but she thinks I was.
So tell me about your high school. When did you get into music, and when did you know that was a passion of yours?
Sure. I don't remember ever not singing. My grandma sang. She had a little gospel group, and they traveled around. I mean, we were in church every night. Somebody was having a revival service somewhere, and they were invited to sing what literally felt like every night. And so I don't remember not singing. They would put me up like in front of the church, like up on whatever so everyone could see me. So that I remember that my whole life. But I only learned to play the guitar so I could play for my grandma. I just wanted to play for her because she was amazing. And
did she teach you, or did you?
No, I just taught myself. And she didn't play guitar, actually, now that I think about it. I never thought of that. That was the only reason I even learned to play, was to play for her. And so music was always there. If I had a minute in middle school where if you'd asked me what I was going to be when I grew up, I would have told you I was going to be a country star. I was pretty serious about it for a minute. And I'd sang all through high school at church, but when just people asked me to. You get busy in high school with sports and all these things. And so it wasn't until I got in college that the Lord really showed me, hey, this is what I have for you. So if you want to do it, let's do it. And so it went from there.
When did you give your life to the Lord?
I was 8 years old.
8 years old. Do you remember the?
Very much. I was at a church camp in eastern Kentucky. And I remember the guy walked me outside of our cabin that we stayed in. He was like our cabin counselor. I don't know what they called him, but he led me to the Lord right by this tree. And just literally a few years ago, I walked back to that camp and I walked straight to that tree. I remembered exactly where it was. But yeah, I was 8.
How did it change your life?
Well, when you're 8, I don't know how much it really changed, other than I just knew this was something I was supposed to do. I just really felt so serious about it. I remember coming home from camp, telling my grandparents and my mom, and got baptized that following Sunday. I was baptized in a creek up a holler, like that's how country we were. I still remember it vividly to this day.
Tell me a little bit about your grandma.
She was the best. We're from the Appalachian Mountains. I mean, hillbilly is real. And that was my grandma.
Did you grow up poor?
No. My grandpa was a construction worker. If we were poor, I didn't know it. And then my mom, she had a great job. I had like every pair of Air Jordans as a kid, so I wouldn't say we did, If there were any issues like that at all, I sure didn't know about it, So they worked really hard to take care of me, and they did.
Did you have any issues in high school and college, or?
No.
Did you ever stray away from the Lord? Or?
I was a pretty good kid. I remember just having so much respect for my grandma and my grandpa too. He was not a believer at the time. He didn't get saved till he was 70 years old. My grandma prayed for him for 50 years. That's a whole other story. But I just remember thinking, like, I don't ever want to disappoint them. And so I really didn't get into much trouble at all growing up. I probably should have gotten in trouble for a few things that I didn't get in trouble for, but for the most part, I was a pretty good kid.
Now, you said you went to church with one of our Nashville artists. Yeah,
so I grew up in my little tiny church. The youth group was like me and my 4 cousins, and so I didn't even know there were like big churches. And I got invited to the big Baptist church in town. They had a huge youth group, praise and worship band. I had never seen that before. And all of a sudden, this guy walks in and surprises us, and everyone's freaking out. Like, oh, he always comes home and surprises us, and I'm the only one that doesn't know who it is, and it's Michael W. Smith. And they were like, he's from this church. This is the church he grew up in, and I had no idea. And I went home and asked my mom, like, hey, nobody told me about this guy, and I knew pop music. She was like, yeah, you know that song, Place in This World? I'm like, yeah. She was like, that's him. And I'm like, nobody told me. And so he's always been a huge inspiration. And we've played with him a few times. We did a sold-out show in our hometown once, and he asked me to be there to open up for him, which was one of the best days of my life. So
you've opened up for a lot of really amazing artists.
We really have. It's been just the neatest thing because we've been totally independent all these years, just doing our thing, and the Lord just kept opening doors. And we've gotten to do some pretty cool things. Did
you ever tell Michael your story?
Oh, yeah, totally.
What did he say?
He just laughs at,
He's a great guy.
At the time, he's still the GOAT to me. He's the best of the best. But, mid to late 90s, he was kind of a big deal.
Oh, yeah, he's still a big deal.
So he just laughs it off. But I said, man, I had no idea who you were,
Did he inspire you to go into Christian music?
Yeah, it kind of came on the back end, but yeah, once I figured out who he was, and there were some people in our church who were his best friends growing up, they took me to a concert of his, and I remember vividly one of the adult leaders turned around and said to me in the middle of his concert, hey, he's from here. If he can make it, you can make it. Just little things like that just probably set you on a path that you didn't even realize at the time. But
well, God had a path and a purpose for your life, and we're going to talk about it when a 15-year-old girl got assaulted, became pregnant from walking home from a swimming pool, and it changed your life.
Sure did.
And we're going to talk about it when we come back. Jason, I mentioned I watched your video on YouTube of your song Constant. Mm-hmm. I know the story, but as I watched it, it just brought tears to my eyes. It's about a 15-year-old girl. And tell me about her.
Yeah, so my mom at 15 was assaulted walking home from the pool one day. Didn't remember it. Months went on. My grandma was chasing around 4 other kids, and she always said, "Your mom was my good kid." And she said, "I completely missed it." And I remember as a young kid, I'm sure I was asking at the time, like, well, hey, how come I don't have a dad? I don't really know how all that happened, but I remember my grandma setting me down and telling me what happened. And I'm sure I didn't understand the situation at the time, but I remember trying to process, like, well, how do you not remember something so traumatic? And I've had plenty of people tell me that when something traumatic like that happens, your mind can block it out. And so my mom just didn't remember it. And months went on, she was gaining weight. She would tell you she was very naive for 15. She didn't understand anything about babies. And she told my grandma one day, "I'm sick, I need to go to the doctor." And my grandma said, "Well, she's gained weight. She had noticed that." She said, "Let's take her to the doctor and see what the doctor says." And so they did. And the doctor came out and said, "Well, she's pregnant." And after the initial shock wore off, the best way I know to explain it to people is I had a praying mama who said, "We're going to go to church and we're going to pray." And that's what they did. And if you were to have heard her tell the story, she made it sound so simple. But I understand that it couldn't have been that easy. But I always tell people my grandma very much understood how big God is. And she believed that He is so big that He was not surprised by me. And these things that we read in the Bible, that He formed me in my mother's womb, that He had plans for me, she believed it with all of her heart. And so for her and her 15-year-old daughter, they had some choices that they had to make. And I always just tell people, I'm just thankful they chose life. And so...
How far along was she?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know, actually. I think it was several months. I mean, I was kicking. That's what scared her, because she didn't know what was happening. You can imagine. I mean, it sounds like a funny, scary movie out of the 80s, but the next thing was adoption was the plan. I mean, that's kind of where it went from there. And then when my mom heard my heartbeat, she said, "No, I want to keep this baby." And I always tell people I know that my 15-year-old mama had no idea what she was getting into. But my grandma did, and she said, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what we're going to do." And so my mom had me turn 16 a couple months later, so she is 16 years older than I am, and went on about life as normal as life could be. And I tell people that they made it clear to me at a young age that, you know what, you don't have a dad, we don't even know who it is, but you have a heavenly Father who loves you more than you'll ever know. And the song Constant just became so perfect because my grandma very much understood that God is constant and He does not change. And even in your deepest, darkest valley, even on your highest mountaintop, He's the same. And when you understand that, it becomes so much easier to say, "God, you're so great, and you're great either way." And that's some of the lines of the song.
It's powerful. How's your mom doing now?
She's good. She wears reading glasses now, which is weird because I remember my mom as a teenager, when you're little kids, people always ask, like, "Well, how old's your mom? How old's your dad?" And I remember telling people, like, "Well, my mom's 21, I remember those conversations. So yeah, she actually came to see us play a few weeks ago. We were close to home, and I always share my story everywhere I go because I promised the Lord I would do that, and I have. And the pastor had her stand up and made a big to-do that she was there, and so that was nice. But yeah, she's good.
Did you ever question growing up, maybe in the teenage years, or wonder or get angry about it?
I never did, and I know that is from the Lord. But I just tell people I was so loved that I just didn't miss having a dad. And I think that just covers a lot of things. And when the love is so great that it can do that. And so I just didn't miss it. But my mom was great. I mean, she did, she was very athletic growing up. So like she coached my basketball team one year. I mean, she always did cool things like that, And then my grandpa was amazing. And I ended up getting to live with my grandparents all through high school because my mom got a job offer far away and I really didn't want to move away from my grandparents, and she let me live with my grandparents all through high school. And so I got to live with them and have that parental unit, the sense of normalcy, I guess, all through high school. And I believe the Lord just worked that out as well because it was perfect for me.
Did you see your grandfather become saved during that time?
Yeah, I was on the road, and I had quit asking my grandpa to come to church with us because I had just given up, and I'm ashamed to tell people that.
How old was he at the time?
He was 70.
70, okay.
And, but he was sharing Jesus with people before he ever realized it. Like, he did all the dad things for me. So when I was in college, he paid for my band's first like demo album, and it was 4 songs, and it was horrible. And I remember he took me to get tires put on my car one day because he did the dad things for me, you know. And he went into this little mom and pop tire shop, and he told the man, he said, "I'm gonna buy the best tires you have for this boy's car." And the guy jumps up, he's so excited. He said, "But you got to come out to my truck and listen to him sing." And he made the man listen to all the songs before he would buy the tires. And he was so proud of me. And he, you know, so he didn't get to see what the band turned into because he passed not long after that. But he really did kind of jump-start it. And so we got to, I wasn't there the day he got saved. I was on the road, and I got a call from my grandma's phone, and it was my Aunt Cindy, and I could hear my grandma in the background. And I thought, what is happening? And she said, "Your grandpa just got saved." And so his baptism service was the next week, and I was able to be there for that, and I sang at that, and it was a beautiful day.
Well, you have been busy, though. How many CDs do you have out, or albums?
This new album, Pilgrim Road, is 11, which is just hard to believe. But yeah, we've done 11 over the years.
And you're celebrating your 20 years.
Yeah. We started a little bit before that, but it became Jason Lovins' band 20 years ago. And because the guys in college that were my best friends when we started the original band, they wanted to graduate and get real jobs, and I really felt like I'm supposed to do this music thing, and so that's when it kind of turned into my thing. But I'm still great friends with all those guys, and they all serve in their church in different music ministries, and so it's cool.
Well, we're going to listen to one of your new songs, "Be My Everything," and you're going to share it when we come back.
Yep.
Jason, tell me a little bit more about your faith. Where are you today?
Someone told me long ago, like, don't lose the wonder of God, because so many things keep happening with this band that it almost feels like we're just getting started. And I just can't believe that God just keeps doing it, you know? And there's so many things that have happened with this band.
Like what?
Well,
changes or?
No, like just things that we have that we shouldn't have. People that have come along, because we literally have done it on our own. So totally independent. And then somebody comes by and says, "You need a bus." And I said, "I don't want a bus." And he said, "No, I'm going to buy you a bus." I mean, just things like that have happened over and over and over. And so just in awe and just the wonder of God that somehow he chose us to do what we're doing and share this message. And he just gives me confirmation over and over and over. So I'm just thankful. Thankful that I came to know him at a young age and that it became very real at a young age. But then yet still day after day just shows me time after time that, hey, I got you. You keep following me, I got you. And it's not always going to be easy because he never promised that, you know. And it's not been easy. But at the same time, it's always felt so worth it because he's worth it. You know, just the basic gospel of the Lord sent his son, Jesus, for us, for me, for everyone, to be able to just share those simple things, those simple truths. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world to get to do that. And so, just in awe that the God in heaven knew my name before I ever even walked into this world.
He had a purpose.
And had a plan. And I've been able to watch that plan happen in real time. And it's been amazing.
It's wonderful. You wrote a song, "Be My Everything." Did you write it? Or?
I didn't write it. Some friends of ours wrote it. And when I heard it, I basically begged them to let me put it on the album because it just rocked my world.
It's kind of about what you were talking about.
Exactly.
He is our everything.
Yeah, it's where I'm at. Just the first line is, "All the sins I've tried to hide in places only you can see, buried deep and locked inside. Here's the key, Savior set it free," and just declares, "Lord, be my everything." More than just a song to sing, more than just a melody, Be My Everything. And I loved it, begged him to let me record it, and we put it on the new album.
Will you play a little bit?
Sure. All the sins I've tried to hide in places only you can see, buried deep and locked inside. Here's the key, Savior set it free. Oh, here's the key, Savior set it free. Be my everything, be my everything. More than just a song to sing, more than just a melody. Be my everything, be my everything. My one and only treasure, be all I'm chasing after. Be my everything.
It's beautiful.
That's been my heart. That's why we do what we do.
Well, all your songs are about the heart. Hide My Soul.
Yeah.
Love that song.
Same guys that wrote Be My Everything wrote Hide My Soul.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And constant. What's some other songs that are on the
There's a
music?
song called Pilgrim Road that ended up becoming the title track, and I helped a friend of mine. He's a young worship pastor. We do a lot of hymns. We've always done that. We've done 3 hymns albums over the years, and I just love doing the old songs, and we, jazz them up. But he knew we did hymns, and he texted me and said, hey, I wrote a hymn, and he's 21 years old, and I'm like a real one? And he said, yeah. I said, like with verses and a refrain? He said, yeah, but I need help finishing it. So I helped him finish it, and it just turned out to be this really cool song, and it just shares the gospel from Genesis all the way to Revelation, and it just made sense to make it the title track of the album. So.
And is it out now?
It's out, yeah. So
you have been all over the world.
Yeah.
Sharing the gospel through your music.
Yeah.
What's it been like?
I really do feel like the luckiest guy in the world. And I'm confident now that the Lord has put us on platforms all over the country so I would be able to share my story. Because my band is amazing. I'm the worst musician in the band. They're incredible.
I don't know if
it's
I would
true.
say that.
They're so amazing. And the Lord has put us in places that this hillbilly kid from West Virginia had no business being at. I mean, we've done Billy Graham crusades and just things that
Isn't that the way he works, though?
Oh, totally. And so I do feel like the luckiest guy in the world to get to do this and just share this message. And the Lord gives me confirmation every single week, because I do share my story everywhere we go. And the stories that I hear would just blow your mind. And it's so humbling to be able to get to share it, because it's easy for me to talk about. I missed the hard part, right? And so it's an honor to get to share what the Lord did through my family with the faith of my grandma. I mean, someone said the courage of your mother and the guidance of your grandmother got you to where you're at, and it has, and so just thankful. What
is the most difficult time that you've been through on the road, going through this process?
Doing all of our own booking. I literally, we've never had a booking agent, nothing.
So you do it all yourself?
It is totally on faith.
Wow.
And we average and have averaged the past 10, 12 years about 40 weeks a year on the road, and it's mostly weekends, so we're home a lot. But we've stayed very busy, and I still just can't believe it. So it feels hard at times when you don't know if you've got any bookings, 3 months from now, but yet the Lord just keeps opening door after door. And so I'm at a point where I don't lose sleep over it anymore, because He's shown me too many times that, hey, I got you.
He's always faithful.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a story or somebody that came up to you and said, you've changed my life because of your story?
Oh, I've got a million of them. The one that would stand out would be one of the very first times. We used to go to these camps all the time, and we were in front of this camp. My wife was there because she's a teacher, so she would go work all summer at the camps with us, and we used to do that every summer. In her Bible study, she said, hey, I have a girl. She's 16 years old. She has an 8-month-old baby. And I think you need to talk to her, because I was about to share my story the next day in front of the whole camp, hundreds of kids. she said, maybe you should talk to her first and just let her hear before I say it in front of everybody. And so we worked it out. Her youth leaders let me sit down and talk to her. And I found out my story and my mom's story and her story were almost parallel, like very much the same, right? She didn't know who the dad was. Her parents were helping her raise the baby. And I saw in that moment, all that little girl needed to know was there was somebody else in this world who had been through exactly what she was going through and made it. That's all she needed. And I could just see the burdens lifted off of her and so she started asking me questions. And then she would ask me questions that I later got to relay back and forth from my mom and my grandma to her mom. And it was amazing. And there's a million of those, but that's the one that continues to stand out after all these years. And she later went on to get married and have a bunch more babies and live happily ever after. And we got to watch that happen, which was so cool. But yeah, just things like that. I hear stories every week like that.
I just pray that God continues to bless you, and just amazed at the lives that you're touching through your music and your faith.
Thank you. It's an honor to do it. It really is. Thankful.
Thank you for being with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My friend, are you going through a trial that just seems impossible? Like Jason said, God is sovereign. He's constant. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. Trust Him today. This is today's Nashville. This is faith.